Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Science, Plants, and Stellar Rhythms. Erik Roth, shamanic alchemical astrologer, here to talk about what's upcoming for February 2026 and the astrological outlook. All right, so we've got probably, of all the months in 2026, this is probably the most important. It may not necessarily produce the most drama or events in the world, but it has within it the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which is the rarest thing that we have that's happening all year. And that it only takes place once every 35 and a half years. And there's a whole video that I made last year about this, and I'll put a link in the description so that people can watch that video. I may do another shorter update of that video in the month of February. And so to stay tuned for that. Uh, but this month we've got a lot brewing for humanity. It starts off on the very first day of full moon in Leo. We have this ongoing and upcoming, well, Aquarius stellium that's moving into a Pisces stellium. Later this month, we have Mercury retrograde. We also have station direct point of Uranus. The sun moves into Pisces as the aforementioned Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And of course, we have a solar eclipse in Aquarius, and Venus will rise in the evening sky. So we're going to talk about all of these things for the month of February. And the eclipse is happening on the 17th of February. So it's towards the end of the video. And by the way, I typically make a whole video just about the eclipses. So there will be a video in a few weeks' time, as like the recording of this is January 27th. And so both like maybe a week before the actual eclipse happens, there will be a video about that particular eclipse. And there'll be another one for the lunar eclipse that happens in March as well. All right, well, let's get into this. So these are the outer planet movements in February. You can pause it here. One of the big things that's happening this month is Saturn ingressing into Aries, which is helping to precipitate the Neptune-Saturn conjunction that happens on the 20th of February. We're building up to a Chiron-Eris conjunction, the last of the series of three. There were two in 2025. So the third one is in March of 2026. And Jupiter is slowing down. It's going to retrograde all the way back to about the 15-degree mark. And then in March, it'll station direct on the 10th. Uranus, of course, is stationing direct 2727 Taurus on the 3rd of February. And Pluto's continuing its deepening into the sign of Aquarius, ending at 4.5 degrees Aquarius. All right, so just a note about the Aquarius and the Pisces stellium and some of the energies involved overall for this month. There's a lot taking place. Of course, not Uranus, but Neptune and Saturn, they are going to be conjuncting in Aries. So that's going to be a big sort of major event in that sign that will also precipitate. There's going to be a large amount of planets that will be in Aries by the time we go into March and as well as in April. So something to keep in mind as I talk about Aquarius and Pisces. So this is going to be February is a carryover from the energies of January, naturally, of course, but there's a lot of stuff still hanging out in Aquarius for the first few weeks of the month of February. But then we get into, as we get at the end of the first week, Mercury moves into Pisces on the 6th, Venus moves into Pisces on the 10th. Then on the 11th and 16th, Mercury and Venus conjunct the North Node in Pisces at around 9 degrees Pisces. And then the sun will join Mercury, Venus, and the North Node on February 18th as well. So there's going to be a major lineup in Pisces after, particularly in the second half of February 2026. The transition from Aquarius to Pisces invites in an opportunity to go beyond the mundane complications of reality and beyond duality through the heart and spirit. Empathy and compassion are highlighted as we switch over to Pisces, but there's still some elements of this Aquarius energy. So greater objectivity of our lives is still an active force as sort of this universal energy of looking at the world from, like, when it comes to freedom, when it comes to equal rights, when it comes to really freedom of expression and our voices. That's going to be a big thing for the month of February. So it's also transitioned from the theory of universal love to the actual practice of it through our feelings and the love of humanity and all life. So that is, like, February really emphasizes that. But there's a lot of other activities beyond just this Aquarius and Pisces that I'm going to be getting into here. So here we have the full moon in hang on a second, the full moon in Leo. Let's see here. Yeah, there we go. All right, so just a little technical. I just had a little bit of technical moment here, but this is happening at 1303 Leo. There's a video that I did with Caitlin Castell on her channel that I would refer to to really get a full expose about this particular full moon in Leo. It's happening at 1303 Leo at 2:09 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you can see this major lineup here in Aquarius at the top of the screen here. And opposite that is our full moon in Leo. And Leo full moons really highlight and emphasize self-love. They really bring into focus having this greater creative vision, having courage to step forth into the world. And it's about taking your vision, taking control of yourself, and being able to dream into what you want, envision what you want, and make it into reality. That's part of so that having the courage to be bold and to make it into reality. That's a big part of what Leo brings into the world here. All right. So what else do we have going on? Let's see here. Oh, we had a little bit of a delay. But the full moon will take place here in between the constellations of the Crab and the Lion, and you can see the star Regulus in that space. So this is as of mid-evening on February 1st here on the West Coast. So you really see it. Regulus will still be visible. It's a fairly bright star. It sits right there on the ecliptic, this pink line that is highlighted here, where the most of the planets are situated. The asteroids can tend to, uh, sometimes move above or below that place, far off the ecliptic. But that's the path that the sun travels right there. So yeah, this is a really going to be a really beautiful full moon if we get a chance to see this. And above that, you see the twins, Castor and Pollux. So this represents sort of transition into the next level of, like, what Leo is trying to accomplish, and on a creative level. What do you can ask yourself what you want to accomplish, what you want to create in this world. What does that mean to you? And so this full moon can bring that magic out, and you can, like, some of the things that a person can do during lunar phases in order to kind of capture the energy of that and to work with it on a ceremonial level. You could set out, like, an object, a crystal, a bowl of water, whatever you feel connected to, or just sit out and meditate under the full moon and be with that energy and have your own experience beyond anything that I share. So this can be something that I would encourage you all to connect with on your own. And some people even have group full moon ceremonies They work with that energy in that way, and that can also be really, really beneficial as well. So the Sabian symbol of this full moon is a cherub-like human soul whispers into their ever receptive ears, seeking to manifest. So in a interpretation of this Sabian symbol, which is 14 Leo, is about the moment where wisdom from the realms beyond ourself come to us all. Sometimes this message may be playful, and certainly in the sign of Leo, it can express in that fashion. But maybe the wisdom reflects our own higher selves that is in touch with the heavens. There is a genuine desire to experience the fullness of our physical manifestation, and even spirits can long for it. This could be that it is suggested that we live the best life we can in alignment with our soul's path. So it's really stepping into that space unabashed to live the best life that we can. And that sense of boundaries and worlds being transcended beyond just the mundane. So this is a powerful full moon in Leo that we all can tap into. And if you happen to have, some personal planets within about 6 degrees of this full moon, um, on the outside, 10 degrees could be okay, but normally 6 degrees. This could be a very personally impactful full moon in your life. Then on the third, Uranus stations direct. So this is a Promethean type of planet. It stations direct here on this day, just 2 days after the full moon. And this is the last time it stations direct in the sign of Taurus in our lifetime, because it will, from this point on, it'll start to draw closer and closer to Gemini. And in 3 months, we'll be in the sign of Gemini as of late April of 2026. So this is a powerful moment to begin to kind of wrap up the issues that were expressed in the sign of Taurus over the last 7 to 8 years. Taurus is about our relationship with comforts, conveniences, pleasures, and especially our relationship with the earth. We've had multiple breakthroughs in making our lives easier, more comfortable, including on a financial level, but there has been becoming more of an unbalanced, this unbalanced way of there's fewer people that are comfortable and more wealth at the top and less, in the middle and in the bottom. And that's the challenge with this, that we've had these amazing technological breakthroughs, especially when it comes to, you know, uh, really being comfortable in our lives, but it's brought in end up becoming more stressful and in some ways, and like we're having to race and race against more and more in order to keep all those conveniences and pleasures in our life. So this is teaching us to like where can we live in a comfortable situation that isn't just, everything invading our lives that is there, well, it has initial intent to make us comfortable, but ends up becoming more uncomfortable. So that's the thing about Uranus is it can give us we can have these breakthroughs and feel great, but then it's like, what are we sacrificing for that? And so that's part of the main driving issue here with these last 3 months or so of Uranus in Taurus and our relationship with those conveniences. What if we sacrificed in order to get that? And can we simplify? Can we go back to a more simplified way of living, comforts? Because once Uranus moves into Gemini, things are going to accelerate in a totally different direction. So just stay tuned for that, and there'll be more information out there that I'll share about that. So then on the 6th, Mercury moves into Pisces. It's going to be there for over 2 months. And this is because we have a retrograde period coming up with Mercury. Mercury is retrograde on the 25th of February and will be there through the 20th of March and in the sign of Pisces. It's all going to be all the Mercury retrogrades for 2026 are in water signs, Pisces, then Cancer, and then Scorpio. in October. Scorpio is the last one in October and November. So this is a chance to us to kind of rewind a bit, get in touch with our feelings and our heart, to tune into what healthy expressions of empathy and compassion for others around us, and to show that expression, sort of that practice of a love for all. What does that really mean? And in this Mercury retrograde, and when it comes to feelings, that's going to be important. So the last sign of this zodiac is meant to be a transcendent sign of the trivial challenges that we face to bring the love for humanity and the cosmos. So it really speaks really, really strongly to this. So they really ultimately the entire 2+ months that Mercury's in Pisces is about this, but with the retrograde, it's giving a chance to do some deeper reflection on that, deeper work with our heart and spirit and our connection with the greater heavens, the divine itself. This is a big part of what Mercury and Pisces is about. And then Mercury retrograde in general can, I mean, certainly every time it happens, there can be challenges when it comes to communications. It can be challenges, particularly with our powerful reliance on electronic communications. We have to be just more not complacent and just trust everything's going to work magically well, but instead actually make sure that people receive our messages, especially the important ones. Even in verbal communications with others, we want to make sure that we're being clear and not just making assumptions. So Mercury retrograde is not the time to make assumptions. It's a time like if you're booking a flight, you want to make sure everything's all set to go, planning a trip. You want to make sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's and not just making assumptions there. So, and with Pisces, things can get a little bit more murky and mystical and confusing. So we can have some of that going on there too. It's not that you shouldn't be making any commitments during this time. It's just that you want to be, a little more careful as you do more of the logical, rational things as far as like cerebral stuff, like planning stuff. Like I'm gonna work on this, on this program. I'm gonna, enter all this data in. It's really this is the thing you want to be just take it easy, be more judicious with your work, more diligent, rather than just willy-nilly through this. So something to consider during this Mercury and Pisces period, and particularly important during the retrograde period from February 25th through the 20th of March. All right, then 4 days later, Venus moves into Pisces, also emphasizing the heart and the spirit. So this is something that can help us, have greater empathy for our brothers and sisters in the world. I think as these planets start to build up into the sign of Pisces, um, and Saturn actually will remain in Pisces for 3 more days after this until it moves into Aries. So this could be a really interesting time, really interesting period of more of the world really feeling that, and when it comes to being able to express one's feelings around this, and to be there for others, to care for that, to create safe space, because when things start to move more into Aries, that's when a lot more action is going to be taking place, more like, okay, what are we going to do now, instead of just feeling the feelings. This is about a application of those feelings in a powerful way once Aries starts to show up there. Now, also at the end of February, Venus and Mercury will conjunct for the second time this year at 22:15 Pisces. So that's another thing to work with. I think that's going to be a powerful Piscean moment. It also happens to be the center of the eclipse season at that time. So this is that February 27th day is a day of heart-to-heart connections, regardless of social, caste, political, or other divides. It's also a great time for spiritual work and meditations. So then on the 11th, the eclipse season begins. And this is what we need to talk about with this is that the eclipse season begins because the sun enters about a 16-ish degree range with one of the nodes. In this case, it's going to be the north lunar node. And the center of it will be also on the 27th of February. So this beginning is sort of enters the energy of it. So it lasts, typically eclipse seasons last a little over a month. It'll go on until mid-March, the middle of March. So just something to keep in mind as things start to develop and move toward the two eclipses that are happening in this eclipse season. Then we get to Saturn Aries, February 13th, 2026. So Saturn was in Aries for about roughly a 4 month period from late May of 2026, 2025 through September 1st of 2025. Right. So it's June, July, August. So a little over 3 months, not quite 4 months, but a little over 3 month period. But this time it's moving into it and it's going to remain in Aries all the way until April 12th of 2028. So we're really going to get quite a big dose of Saturn Aries here. Separating Saturn from Neptune in Aries is challenging when they're together, particularly through this early portion of 2026, as well as that period of 2025. So Saturn Aries is akin to a call to arms in the form of justice, revolution, creating new foundation and creating just laws for all of humanity. It's also a motivation for a counter movement toward greater control of what some may consider to be chaos and lawlessness. So we're already seeing elements of that happening in the world, particularly here in the United States. So there's these kinds of themes are going to come up more and more, and as Saturn and Neptune get together, it's a really like supercharged a form of that. And again, I have a separate video about that. And I do have a slide here just to talk about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Um, and so it's hard to separate, just go, oh, Saturn Aries and Neptune Aries. But because they're together off and on through 2026, it's, talking about one without the other is I think a little futile because they're not separated necessarily. Although there comes a point in the summertime where they get about 10 degrees apart before the retrograde period. So there is some element of Saturn reaching beyond Neptune's influence at that point. Okay, so what the last times that Saturn was in Aries was 1967 through 69 and 96 through 98. And in the early years of the United States, in the thick of the French Revolution, Saturn did enter Aries right at right around the time just after the country was established after the Revolutionary War and the French Revolution got going. And it was at the time it was also opposite Neptune and Libra, all the while that Pluto was in Aquarius. So there's some echoes of the late 18th century that are happening today. So one of the things that the themes here is the individual and collective make their voices and actions known. So this isn't a time for just sitting around and treating life as business as usual. This is a time for making your voices heard and pursuing justice. And really doing whatever legal ways that we can stand up and let the those that we need to let know what our true voice is, whether it be the government, whether it be our community, or whether it be our family or our boss. This is a time where we want to speak our truth here. All right, so on the same day that there's a solar eclipse, Venus will rise in the evening sky. This is again February 17, 2026, and it will happen at 8:43 Pisces. So the planet Venus will once again become visible in the night sky, and this is in the evening sky. Venus has been on the other side of the sun with Mars, Mercury, and Pluto at various times since November 25th, 2025. This is shamanically looked at as the underworld phase. In the next period of time, Venus will be visible in the evening sky upon reaching 10 degrees from the sun. So that's how it reaches that. It gets to that 10-degree mark, and a sort of a rule of thumb of when we can really see Venus. Some people, like if they have really clear horizons, may be able to see Venus earlier than the 17th in the evening. So this is, again, this is not a hard, fixed rule. That can be, it depends on the angle you are, the geographic location. There's a lot of factors that go into that. So this is starts the ascent phase of Venus, a phase where Venus goes through the gates to ascend to her renewal, and therefore of the feminine principle within us all. And she, back in ancient times, she was known as Inanna, the Queen of Heaven and Earth. And so the Queen of Heaven and Earth is rising to be seen and to share her love and power within. Um, and so this shows the importance because it's happening on the same day as the eclipse and in this window of near the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries. We're seeing Venus playing a significant role here in the connection and the you can call it the expression that Saturn, Neptune, and the eclipse are sharing with humanity. So this can be really, really powerful for the world. And if you happen to be in a Venus return cycle, this is a really powerful moment. They happen once every 8 years. And it's a time where we begin more of our kind of an expansion and reclamation of our own personal power within ourselves around the what the feminine means to us. So our relationship to the feminine, particularly within ourselves, is on the altar here. So here's the annular solar eclipse. You can see on the same day as that Venus rising in the evening sky, as that this is at 28:49. The eclipse takes place at 4:01 a.m. and is most 99% of the world's population will not see this eclipse. It's happening in the extreme southern hemisphere, Antarctica, parts of South Africa, and extreme South America. So um, there'll be a separate video about this particular eclipse, but I wanted to obviously include this because it's part of the month of February. So this is the first eclipse in the sign of Aquarius. So we're getting our very early indications because the lunar nodes are going to be moving into Aquarius, North Node in Aquarius and South Node in Leo in late July of 2026. So we're getting a little bit of a preview of what that could be like for humanity, that period of time. Um, so the transition out of the signs of Virgo and Pisces continue. So on March 3rd, there'll be a Pisces lunar eclipse, a full moon eclipse. Actually, it's um, not a Pisces lunar eclipse. It's going to be a Virgo lunar eclipse. So that's um, just a typo on my part there. So Virgo lunar eclipse, and we'll talk about that as so I talk about the eclipse in the eclipse video to be coming to a YouTube channel near you. All right. So, what is the Sabian symbol of this Aquarius solar eclipse? Um, well, this is from Linda Hill's The Sabian Oracle, and she draws her inspiration from a lot of what Dane Rudyard, astrologer, and Mark Edmund Jones, who's long passed on. That was the who and him and his partner were the originators of the Sabian symbol in the early to mid 20th century. So she includes a slow building of confidence, coming out into fuller participation of the bigger picture, growing up and out, emerging from the dark, leaving yesterday behind, becoming more and more beautiful, finding one's feet or wings, metamorphosis, huge changes in the works, giving up struggling, and the drama of new life unfolding. And so this is pretty self-explanatory. When you think of a symbol of a butterfly emerging from the chrysalis, it's a pretty universal one that deals with transformation. It deals with an emergence of like that the soul and the person, the self, is emerging into its more truer form. It's ready to reach that next big stage of itself. So this is something that I look at with the eclipse that may be a point of hope for humanity. But no one without struggle and hardship but not one without struggle and hardship to reach the soul's desire for evolution, meaning that there's still work to do to reach that butterfly moment, but that there's a spark of something there. There's something emerging, something that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. This is that what that eclipse I think is powerfully about. In fact, if we look at the lineup here, being in Aquarius is a spark of hope and looking at the future as a sign. It can, at its healthiest level, it can be innovative. It can be highly expansive when it comes to consciousness. So it's connecting us into that wavelength to really kind of push us up and out beyond the stuckness of our lives. And so that's a big part of what I think this eclipse is talking about here for all of us. All right, so let's talk about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. This happens on February 20th, 2026 at 0045 Aries. This is the March equinox point. This is the beginning, the alpha point of the zodiac. And it hasn't, there was an astrologer who did research, and there hasn't been a Saturn Neptune conjunction at this point for many thousands of years. I think it's somewhere around the 5 to 6,000 year point. They haven't conjuncted in the sign of Aries for about 300 years. It was 1703 when that happened before. So it's been a long time since they've conjuncted in this area of the sky. So Saturn's role is one of assistance and manifestation of the formless, and Neptune's role is to detach from form, to go beyond the constructs of reality and to the mystical level, to dream your dream. So, but when we look at them combined, we can see what has come through. Um, so in previous incarnations of these two planets, we've uncovered the unseen secrets of DNA, early development of photography and film, spiritual structures, ideas and visions manifesting before our senses. It can also lead to opportunities to see the idealisms and ideologies that shake the foundations of humanity. Back in 1989, when they last conjuncted in the sign of Capricorn, we saw a powerful rise of democratic ideologies in Eastern Europe, breaking apart from the Soviet Union and the fall of the Berlin Wall. We also saw the potential of something similar to that happening in China, but the Tiananmen Square massacre that was not just regulated to only that area, but where the hundreds of thousands of students were protesting in China were some of them were massacred. And so but during that time they erected something called the Goddess of Democracy. And so they had that symbol that rose. And so you can't necessarily kill an idea. What this means is there's the potential of that idea seeding something much later. And so there's the potential of Saturn and Neptune helping that out. Doesn't mean that China is going to suddenly switch to a democratic republic, but it means that there's something there that's building. And I do feel like this is really has the powerful potential of the people rising up to really truly express who they are and to, I mentioned about, righting wrongs and claiming justice and using your voice. This is the Saturn Neptune conjunction. It's not just this only one day. It's really a theme for the whole year. So we're going to have a period at the end of 2026 where they're going to get Saturn Neptune will be about 4 degrees away from each other. So something to tune into as things develop, because this really is hugely impactful for humanity. And one thing to follow that I mentioned in my Saturn Neptune video is like a shift in Russia. Russia seems to have massive changes that take place in that country every time there's a Saturn Neptune conjunction, or sometimes even Saturn Neptune oppositions and Saturn Neptune squares. So stay tuned for something, and it could relate to the Ukraine war as well. All right. So the sun does go into Pisces 2 days before Saturn-Neptune conjunct, but I put it in here because I really wanted to connect with Saturn-Neptune first. But the sun starts to join in Mercury, the North Node, Venus, and there's a lot of Piscean energy here. So February 18th at 7:51 a.m. is the um, sun moving into Pisces. So the sun adds fuel to the fires of empathy, compassion, and healing energies for humanity. And we can work with the sun in Pisces by opening our hearts to feeling empathy and compassion, connecting with spirit, meditating on our feelings in not only what we are receiving feeling wise, but transcending the nature of duality as well. So there's a place where we can seek out a higher source within us and to draw that in and to work with it, particularly if we're, you know, um, discovering the power of our feelings, of our heart, just as powerful as when it comes to our mind and our logic. And then at the end of the month, we have the center of the eclipse season. This is also the same day as the Venus-Mercury conjunction. So this eclipse season is started on the 11th of February and will go on all the way until the 15th of March. And there's two eclipses in this season, the February 17th solar annular eclipse and the March 3rd lunar eclipse. So the center of it is like the center of like the powerful eclipse energies, which when we get into an alignment with eclipses, there tends to be really remarkable things that take place. And it kind of really moves the energy in big ways. So February is going to be a month where the potential for some very significant things taking place. January, I feel, is just sort of a warm up to what the year is going to be involved in, and February is really where the rubber meets the road. The thicker energy starts to be forged here, and be prepared for some major happenings. Like we're going to definitely kick it off with a big movement here, I feel. All right. Here's the chronology of the month of February. You can see it's pretty somewhat evenly scattered through the month, starting out with the full moon, ending with the Venus-Mercury conjunction and the center of the eclipse season. And towards the middle of it, we've got Saturn moving into Aries, the Sun in Pisces, an annular solar eclipse, and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So this is something you could, certainly do a screen capture of, and I will, of course, at some point post just this image separately in my social media posts. So stay tuned for that and more to come. And I look forward to sharing more with you in the coming weeks. Um, I'm an astrologer, so I do a lot of personal astrology readings for people and mentoring and providing monthly guidance programs for them. I also do a lot of traveling. I go to a lot of events, holistic and psychic and metaphysical fairs through the West Coast, California, Oregon, and Washington. Sometimes I do travel outside that area, like I've been to Texas and Ohio and Arizona. So there could be other places as well that I go to. My website's inspiralnexus.com, and you can also catch some of my collaborative videos and classes at mystaralchemy.com that I co-teach with Kaylin Castell. And I please subscribe and like this video if you do, and share if it's something that you think others could benefit from. And I look forward to seeing you next time. All right. Happy February, everyone.